Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met a woman who seems to understand you in a way no one else does? She's intelligent, emotionally engaging, and makes you feel seen, like you finally found someone who gets you. But then, just as your hopes begin to rise, you find out she's married. Suddenly, you're not just navigating emotions, you're navigating a situation that feels like a maze of secrecy, longing, and confusion. In today's video, we will unpack one of the most emotionally complicated experiences a man can face: falling for a woman who belongs to someone else. We'll walk through the 7 most common mistakes men make when getting involved with a married woman. Mistakes that don't just cost time or energy, but can quietly erode a man's confidence, clarity, and sense of self-worth. Let me ask you, are you currently in a relationship you know deep down isn't right? Or have you been through one and felt the struggle of letting go? If so, this video is for you. You're not alone, and what you're feeling is real. Stick with me until the end, because we're not just going to talk about what goes wrong. We'll talk about how to protect your heart, future, and peace of mind. Let's get into it. Mistake 1. Believing she'll leave her husband for you. It begins with a whisper of dissatisfaction, a quiet confession shared in a moment of emotional closeness. She tells you things she doesn't tell anyone else. Her marriage is dead, she says. They sleep in separate rooms. They only stay together for the kids. There's no intimacy left, only routine. Slowly, you start to believe you're not just a confidant, you're the one she truly wants. But you don't realize that these words are not always promises. Sometimes they're just release valves. Many men fall into this trap. They wait, they hold on to hope, thinking she's just one step away from leaving. They hear, "I can't do this much longer," and interpret it as a timeline, when, in reality, it's often just a feeling. She may genuinely be unhappy in her marriage, but unhappiness alone doesn't equal action. What she's seeking might not be a new beginning, it might just be a safe space to breathe. Hope blinds you. It convinces you to stay patient, loyal, available. You tell yourself she just needs time to figure things out, but weeks become months, and conversations remain the same. "He's not a bad person," she'll say, or "I don't want to hurt the kids." You start living in the possibility of a future that only exists in your imagination. And that's where pain sets in, not because she lied, but because you chose to believe without evidence. A woman who truly intends to leave will start taking steps. Quietly or openly, she will begin to separate her life from his. But if those steps never come, if the story stays on repeat, you have to stop pretending you're in a different chapter. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that caring and committing are different. Men often forget a simple truth. If someone wants to be with you, they won't keep you waiting. Waiting becomes a prison you willingly step into, hoping that one day the door will open. But often it doesn't. For her, the emotional escape you provide is enough. You fill the gap without her needing to close it. Don't live in fantasy. Live in what you can see and measure. Is she making changes or just making excuses? Is she moving toward you or standing still while asking you to stay near? You deserve someone who chooses you fully, not someone who keeps you on pause while clinging to another life. In love, the hardest thing to accept is that sometimes words are just comfort, not commitment. But the sooner you see the difference, the sooner you'll free yourself from waiting for something never coming. Mistake 2. Ignoring red flags. There's a particular kind of man who believes in effort. He stays up late to reply when she texts at odd hours, adjusts his schedule to fit hers, and tells himself that flexibility is the price of modern dating. But over time, something doesn't sit right. You notice the patterns. She's only free after 10 p.m., her weekends are always mysteriously full, and you've never been invited into her public world. And slowly it dawns on you. You're not a secret because of timing. You're a secret because of choice. A healthy relationship doesn't hide in the shadows. Something is wrong if you're constantly waiting for scraps of her attention, only seeing her behind closed doors, or finding your presence absent from her social life. The truth is simple. People show off what they're proud of. If she wanted you visible, it's easy to ignore red flags when you're emotionally invested. You make excuses for her distance. You tell yourself she's just busy and private, not ready. But deep down, you know when you're not being treated as a priority. Real connection shows up in consistency, not convenience. Being someone's late-night conversation but never their Saturday plan is not romance. A line cuts through this illusion. If I were a real priority, why would she hide me? That question is often more revealing than any conversation, because even if her words say she cares, her actions tell another story. Love that's afraid to be seen isn't love. It's comfort dressed in secrecy. You don't need to be dramatic to be wise. You just need to pay attention. Look at how she includes or excludes you from her life. Look at how many promises lead nowhere and how many somedays never become plans. Patterns don't lie, and the longer you stay in someone's shadow, the more you forget the light you're worthy of. Protecting your peace means stepping back when something feels off, not waiting to prove it's broken. You deserve to be with someone who doesn't hesitate to stand beside you in daylight. Someone who doesn't just want you when the world's asleep, but values you enough to bring you into her real life, not just her private hours. And that kind of connection doesn't keep you waiting, it shows up fully. Mistake 3. Getting emotionally invested too fast. It begins with a spark, a glance, a shared laugh, and a few long conversations stretch into the night. For a man who has gone too long without feeling truly seen, even the smallest gesture of attention can feel like a flood. Her kindness feels rare, her time feels precious, and before he realizes it, he's already started to imagine a future she hasn't even considered. What feels like intimacy is often just emotional hunger, coloring the moment in ways that make it hard to see clearly. When a man is emotionally deprived, even basic warmth can seem extraordinary. He mistakes availability for investment, interest for intention. He starts building a picture in his head, a relationship that hasn't yet taken root. He thinks about where things could go, what life might look like with him, and what it would feel like to wake up next to someone who seems to understand him. But in truth, she hasn't changed a thing about her life. She's still moving at her pace, unsure and exploring her options. And while he's all in, she's still standing at the edge. That imbalance isn't always obvious. Women don't have to say much to make a man feel something deeply. A light touch, a personal story, a compliment at just the right time. It all hits differently when he's been starved of connection. But closeness without consistency is not commitment. And feelings without reciprocated effort are just assumptions dressed as hope. The hardest part for many men is knowing when to slow down. Feelings are valid, but they're not always reliable. Just because you feel deeply doesn't mean she's on the same page. And no matter how intense the emotion is, it can't compensate for a lack of action on her side. Interest without investment isn't love, it's convenience. There's a quiet discipline in learning to protect your heart without closing it off, and holding space for your emotions without letting them lead you into illusions. Not every spark deserves to be a flame. Not every moment of closeness means a future is unfolding. Sometimes it's just a moment, nothing more. And recognizing that doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. There's an old truth every man should remember. Don't fall for potential, fall for consistency. Because what's real isn't how fast it begins, it's how steadily it grows. Mistake 4. Thinking you can change her. A quiet heartbreak comes not from rejection, but from believing you almost made it. If you had just done one more thing right, shown a little more patience, and loved her a little harder, maybe she would have seen it. Seen you and chosen you. Men often fall into the trap of thinking love is a puzzle that can be solved with effort. You show up, stay consistent, listen when she's sad, give without asking, and wait. You believe that if you become the perfect version of what she wants, her heart will eventually turn in your direction. But no one tells you this. Her decision isn't about how good you are. It's about how ready she is. You can't love someone with clarity. You can't give enough to convince someone to choose a path they're not ready to walk. And when a woman hesitates and keeps circling back without ever committing, it's not because you didn't try hard enough. It's because she's still choosing something else. Maybe comfort, maybe fear, perhaps the idea of who she used to be before she met you. Trying to be her savior doesn't make her love you. It makes you exhausted. It also builds resentment because deep down, love shouldn't have to be earned like this. It should be met, chosen, returned. No man can carry a relationship on his back forever. At some point, you stop growing and start shrinking, trying to fit into the idea of who she might love one day, instead of who you already are today. There's a hard truth here worth facing. A woman who wants to stay confused will always find a reason not to choose clarity. And no amount of sacrifice on your part can rewrite the story, as she's not ready to live yet. Letting go isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. You're not walking away because you didn't care enough. You're walking away because you finally realize it's not your job to convince someone to see your worth. It's your job to live it. Mistake 5. Underestimating the social consequences. At first it feels like a secret world where the rules don't apply. Every glance feels electric, and every message is urgent and forbidden. She says things like, "He doesn't see me anymore," or "I haven't felt this alive in years," and you start believing you're the answer to a question she's been asking for a long time. But the truth is, affairs don't stay in the shadows forever. What starts in silence often ends in chaos, and few men truly understand the cost until it's too late. The emotional bond with a married woman can feel intoxicating. There's a thrill in being chosen as the one she confides in when her marriage feels cold or broken. But that connection comes with a weight, because behind the passion, there's a life she's not willing to leave. A husband she says she no longer loves. A family she says is already drifting. It sounds like justification, but it's also a trap. You begin to blur the lines between her words and reality. Then, one day, the boundary you thought you could manage disappears. Maybe her husband finds the messages, or hears a change in her voice. Maybe her friends start asking questions, or a child senses the shift. It unravels, and when it does, it doesn't do so quietly. There are no clean breaks when families are involved. You don't just walk away with a broken heart. You walk away carrying damage, not just yours, but hers too, and sometimes damage you never intended to cause. It's easy to underestimate how fast things spiral. One day, you're meeting her in quiet corners, and the next, there's a knock at your door, and a man stands there who's had his world torn apart. And at that moment you realize this wasn't just an affair, it was someone's marriage, someone's home, someone's life. And now it's broken. You must draw a line before emotion carries you past the point of return, because no matter how intense the chemistry or how deep the connection is, it will eventually collapse. If the situation is built on secrecy and deception, and when it does, you won't be remembered for how deeply you felt, you'll be remembered for how recklessly you acted. As the saying goes, if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. So ask yourself early, are you ready to pay the price for something never truly yours? Or is the silence you walk away with still better than the storm that follows when everything comes to light? Mistake 6. Comparing yourself to her husband. It begins with a complaint. Small at first. She says he's cold, inattentive, or too focused on work. You listen, you nod, you start to wonder why she's telling you this, and then, without even realizing it, you start trying to become his opposite. You show more interest, more emotion, and more effort. At first it feels like you're stepping up, but soon you're stepping out of yourself. The comparison game is subtle but dangerous. You hear about how he's failing her, and a quiet belief forms in your mind. If I can be everything he's not, she'll finally see me. From then on, you're not relating to her as a whole person. You're reacting to a version of her shaped by frustration and distance. You stop asking who you are around her and start asking who she wishes he would be. And that's how men get lost. You may change how you dress, how you speak, and how you show up. You're more careful with your words, more open with emotion, and maybe even more available than you naturally would be. But none of it feels anchored. Because it's not you. It's a version of you, crafted to contrast a man she says she's tired of. The tragedy is that while you're trying to prove your worth by outperforming him, you're also slowly letting go of your identity. And here's the truth that stings once it lands. This isn't a competition. If you think being the opposite of her partner will earn her heart, you've already stepped into a role, not a relationship. A real connection can't be built on the rejection of another man. It has to be built on presence, honesty, and authenticity. And none of that exists when you're performing for a part she hasn't even asked you to audition for. Sometimes, when a woman talks about her partner, what she's doing isn't inviting you to rise. It's a mirror of where she feels stuck. And if you base your identity on her dissatisfaction with someone else, you won't become the man she loves. You'll become the man she uses to cope. There's a more profound truth here. If you have to become someone else to win her over, you'll have to keep pretending to keep her. And eventually that mask cracks. And when it does, she won't just lose interest, she'll feel betrayed. Not by who you are, but by the fact that you never showed her that man from the start. Real connection isn't born from contrast. It's born from clarity, not from trying to outshine another man, but from knowing your value and offering it without fear or pretense. The right relationship doesn't ask you to outperform anyone. It simply asks you to be real. Mistake 7. Not walking away when you should. There's a quiet kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from being left, but from refusing to leave when, deep down, you already know you should. Some men find themselves in relationships they know have no real future, but they stay anyway, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of losing the time and effort already invested, fear of starting from nothing again. It often begins with hope disguised as patience. You tell yourself maybe she just needs time, perhaps she's still figuring things out, maybe she'll finally leave him in one more month, stop being confused, or choose you completely. But that month becomes 3, then 6, then a year. By the time you look up, you've built a story that no longer matches the reality in front of you. The truth is, your instincts were right all along. You saw the signs, the emotional inconsistency, the half-truths, and the endless excuses. You felt the push and pull, but stayed because you thought your effort would eventually be rewarded. But effort alone doesn't build a future, and love that leaves you waiting isn't love that's growing, it's love that's avoiding. What you tolerate becomes your pattern. The longer you stay in a place that doesn't honor you, the harder it becomes to imagine leaving. But staying out of fear is the slowest form of self-abandonment. It chips away at your confidence and your clarity. You begin to doubt your worth simply because someone else hasn't thoroughly chosen you. But here's the truth. Someone else's indecision should never become your cage. There's wisdom in knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing the other person, but protecting your peace. When the writing is on the wall, the patterns don't change, and your needs remain unmet. You don't need another conversation. You need courage, not the kind that hopes for a miracle but knows you deserve better than waiting to be an option. As the saying goes, letting go is hard, but holding on to the wrong thing is harder. When you finally walk away, not out of bitterness, but with quiet clarity, you create space. Space for healing, space for something real, and most importantly, space for yourself. Dating a married woman isn't just emotionally risky, it can quietly erode your self-worth, drain your time, and keep you locked in a story that was never truly yours to begin with. Many men fall into this situation not out of weakness, but out of hope. Hope that love will win, that she'll choose them, that things will change. But as we've seen, hope without action becomes a trap. If she's not willing to take real steps, if you're always kept in the shadows, if your needs are constantly minimized while you wait for her to choose, then it's time to pick yourself. Real love doesn't come with secrets, ultimatums, or late-night excuses. It comes with mutual respect, clarity, and emotional availability. You deserve to be someone's first choice, not their emotional escape route. So protect your heart, guard your energy, and walk away when your peace is at stake. Have you ever found yourself in this kind of situation? What helped you move on? Or what would you tell someone who's still stuck in it? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights into love, boundaries, and building the kind of relationship you deserve. See you in the next one.